The following presentation was recorded live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania for the 22nd Annual International Association of Square Dance Callers. This is tape number 6, Teaching Techniques.
Good morning, everybody. We're glad to have you here. We'd like to welcome you. Just to let you know that this is Teaching 101, and we're here to talk to you about teaching and teaching techniques. And we've got quite a panel here. There's a lot of teaching experience up here on the stage. To my immediate left, and he'll be the first guy to go, is Jon Kaltenthaler. He's... Pardon? He's not... Okay. Yeah, we're going to have a good time, I can see that. Jon Coulton.
Just let us know if the middle of our sentence interrupts the start of yours.
Yeah. Jon has been associated with caller training for 32 years, and he's been teaching square dancing for 38 years. He's been a caller that long. He is a member of the caller coach committee, and I'm sure you know most of his credentials. He's going to start off our discussion and address how teaching should include timing and smooth dancing. He's going to demonstrate how smooth choreographic sequences can enhance dancer's success. He's going to discuss tempo, hand availability, and that type of thing. Good timing and smooth dancing will lead to fewer errors by class members. Fewer errors, less frustration. Less frustration, fewer dropouts. And next to Jon is Jack Murtha. He is from California. He's been calling since 1948, teaching lessons since 1951. Jack has been in the school systems for many years, is the architect of the Diamond program, and Jack's going to discuss the ability to introduce a call in such a way as to reduce or eliminate early dancer errors. He's going to demonstrate some of his methods of presenting new calls to class members. And again, in preventing initial errors, we greatly reduce frustration and dropouts. And later on, I'm going to talk about the fact that there are easy, medium, and hard ways to present calls. And I'll demonstrate some of these also. I've been calling since 1966 and teaching lessons since 1967. So there's lots of years of teaching up here, and I think you're going to enjoy what they have to offer. And everybody, every teacher that I've ever been around, every caller that I've ever been around, I found that I have been able to learn something from them. And I think you're going to find that here. There are a lot of teaching techniques to make teaching easier and learning much less frustrating for new students. And I think that's the bottom line, that we need to reduce the frustration and make dancing more enjoyable. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Jon Coulton.
Thank you, Jerry. When I was asked to be on this panel, I thought, wow, Jerry Junck's the moderator, Jack Murtha's the other panelist. What am I doing there? And then I got to thinking, you know, teaching is something that we as callers don't spend nearly as much time trying to learn about as we should. And my background when I was in the service was with teaching. When I was with IBM, I spent 5 years in teaching. And I think that those things put me in excellent stead to understand why and how people learn. Certain principles of learning, certain principles of teaching haven't changed over the years, and they bear repeating, but we're not going to dwell on them. Such things as going from the known to the unknown, going from the simple to the complex, and build on related components. We all understand that, and square dancing just absolutely requires you to do that, because as you go through, you build up from one call to the next, and that's why the logical teaching progression has been developed over a period of time. But I think there are other aspects of teaching which are equally or perhaps even more important, and that is, how do we use our music? My personal opinion, and again, these things aren't set in concrete and say it's the only way, but I think that you have opinion things and you have strong things in which you believe. My personal belief is that if you have strongly phrased music and you get the people moving to the phrase of the music, that you're going to be able to teach a great many more things than you would as if they're just kind of wandering around. We have all seen the dancer that goes out for a bear hunt, and he just kind of strolls. He does a square through at about 2 steps. There are very long pauses in between the steps, and he manages to turn the corner so you don't quite know how he got there, but he's where he's supposed to be at the time he's supposed to be there. I find as a caller, I dare not look at that person because I want to say, move your butt. You know, you want them to move with the music. I mean, that's what we all want them to do. And the way we do that is by selecting the music first. As an aside, I think that we miss a great opportunity in how we program because we fail to use the music as our basic programming tool, or one of our basic tools. So we want to get the strongly phrased music, and then we want to encourage the dancers to move to music. Well, how do you do that? I feel there are two sequences to that. The first is that you teach them, as you teach the move, you teach them the physical steps that they must take. For instance, if I teach a lady's chain, I say, now that's going to take you 8 beats to do from a static square. 4 beats for the ladies to cross over, and 4 beats to do the courtesy turn. Let's see if we can all do it together. And you count. And then you put on the record, and you do that in such a way that the dancers get the first beat of music. And that is not something which is easy for a lot of people to do. This record, by the way, is called Heartbeats. It's on Desert 9004. But you can hear this phrasing of this record very easily. And if you're teaching the ladies' chain, you want to teach it takes 4 to get over, 4 to turn. Head ladies' chain, go 1, 2, 3, 4, courtesy turn. Same ladies' chain back, 2, 3, 4. Side ladies' chain, go. They get the first beat of the phrase. Once you've done that and you see that they're all moving to the music, then you're able to do certain combinations of things, such as, let's say that we've done the courtesy turn and they know the ladies' chain, and then we've done the pass-through, and we've done the pass-through with the courtesy turn, and we called out a right and left through and all that sort of good thing. Supposing we wanted to develop a sequence that enables them to get the feel of flow while we're dancing that. The sequence that I normally use on that is the head ladies' chain, and the heads promenade half, do a right and left through, and the same 2 ladies' chain. And if you think about that choreographic action, that has a nice rhythmic flow to it, and as they do the courtesy turn, they wheel right into the promenade half, they do the right and left through, and as you courtesy turn that girl, she comes right back into the center for the ladies' chain back home. That's the way you start to use the music. That's the way you start to use the musical phrases so that they indeed get the first beat of the music and they're able to get the feeling of flow. When we start most of our calls, and if you look at the mainstream dance program, most of the calls do indeed have an 8-beat count to them. Now that's not true with such things as square through from a static square or a swing through, because they work in combinations. But if you think of the static square, the head square through 4, how many beats are we looking at? We're looking at 10 beats, and we follow that with a swing through or a right and left through. How many beats does it take from the 8 chain through formation? It takes 6 more. What does that mean? We've got 2 musical phrases, doesn't it? So we're back on the musical phrase. Is it easy to call on a musical phrase so that the dancer gets the first beat? No. How many of you consciously make an effort to do that every time you call? What liar has not tried to tell me that that's what he's tried to do? You can't do it all the time. And unfortunately, some of our calls today don't meet the 8-beat phrase, the 8-beat step phrase, step count, if you will. So that our job is to kind of make those trade-offs when we're talking of timing. But we can do the calling in such a way that we give the dancer the first beat most of the time. If we take a look at some singing calls, they, for the most part, callers will always get the first phrase so that the dancers get to the music. This particular record is a Silver Sounds record called My Hero. 4 ladies chain, go. They get the first beat of that chain. You chain them back or roll away, whatever you want to do. Circle left, they get the first beat. You got to discipline yourself now. Where do you need the element? Element that corner. Weave the ring. Then you go ahead into your chorus line if that's what you want. Swing your partner. Promenade a sail. And then you go right through it. But you as the caller must discipline yourself to give the command when the dancer needs it. Head square through 4. They get the first beat. Now wait. Swing 2, because that's off phrase. You had to wait till they finish it. Boys run, bet your life. Right or left to pass the ocean. Recycle. Swing that corner. swirl, and all promenade. And the dancer gets the beat of the music when the dancer needs it, not when we need it. Typically, what do most callers do? They're selfish. They take the call for themselves. Head to your square tube and they get four hands and go. You're right with the music. No big problem about that. Swing to, boys run to the right and a couple circulate tonight. Ladies, you chain down the line and you keep it straight. Star through and pass through and trade by and then swing your corner, lady. We'll all promenade. Who gets the first beat? The caller. It's a different dancing experience. Can we get our volunteer square up here for the moment? I say there, volunteers. What I'd like to do is show you by observation the difference if I give the dancer the first beat or if I take the first beat for myself, okay? And we're going to use the same record because they heard subliminally, then they won't make any mistakes at all. And any mistakes which they do make are purely intentional to make sure that you're watching. Who are the heads going to be here, guys? Lengthwise? Which way do you want? 4 ladies changed. So far, no decision. Circle left and then ladies roll away. Circle left, ladies roll away. Circle left around, you see. Alabama that corner, weave the land. Did you ever know that you're my hero? Swing that lady, we'll all promenade. I'll fly higher than an eagle, 'cause you're the wind beneath my wings. Head square through in the middle, I said to get 4 hands. Sure hurts when you do it that way. Swing through and then the boys run to the right. Couples circulate tonight. Ladies chain down the line. Star through, pass through, trade by. Swing your corner. Come on in, go around, you fly. I'll fly. It is very difficult to do a swing on those. Let me take the first beat for myself and see if it dances different for them. Head to your square through and to get 4 hands and now. Swing through somehow. Boys run and a couple circulate. Ladies chain down the line. They stopped, didn't they? Because I didn't give it when they needed. Star through, pass through and trade by. Swing that corner, all promenade, you see. 'Cause you're the wind beneath my wings. 4 ladies chain, they get back the first beat. That's the phrase. We can do that easy. Okay. They'll tell you which is easier to dance. When I give you the first beat or when you get the first, there's the caller, I take the first beat. Which is the easier way for you to dance? When you get the beat. Did you all see the difference in their dancing? And that is not an easy thing to do. Let's give these guys a big hand. They did a super job for us. Thank you, guys and gals. Now, singing calls are, incidentally, that's my hero in Silver Sounds, and it's Silver Sounds 112. Singing calls, for the most part, are fairly easy to give the dancer the lead phrase by cueing it so that they get the first beat. How many of you, when you call sides face grand square, always call it correctly on the phrase? Always, no exceptions. Now we start to have a little hesitancy with those hands. They kind of go up just a tad, don't they? Yeah, damn few of us left. I had to say that for Jerry Help. The other thing that I want to say about a grand square is that it takes how many beats to do a grand square if done properly? 32. No question about that. How long does a musical phrase take to do that? 32 beats. What do we as callers do? We want to hear ourselves sing, don't we? So we're merrily singing that musical tagline or the musical phrase as we go. And guess what we forget to do? We forget to give them the command on beats 28, 9, 29, 30, 31, and 32 so that they start the next thing on the 33rd beat. Guess what the dancers do when they hear us singing? They find something to take up the time. And that's how bad habits begin. I have had a number of dancers come to me over the years, and I'm sure many of you have too. how do you do such and such? And my standard answer is, you have to learn the bad habits on your own. I will not teach you how to do them. Now, I say that in such a way that I try not to offend the people. It's like ladies' chain. There are no doubt there are young people in this activity that can do a ladies' chain in less than 8 beats. There are some who are more athletic inclined, can probably do it in 4. And for those gifted young people, they can do it in 3. But that's the ladies' lunge, and we're dealing with the ladies' chain. Please take the full 8 beats. Now, why do I say it that way? I say it that way because I think that if we put just a little bit of humor in our teaching, it makes it more palatable to take the medicine. And I say from the standpoint that if we make it light, and we are light in our teaching techniques, then we're going to get a lot further with the dancers. I think that it's important for us to let the dancers move to the music. And again, there are a number of records which I think have strongly phrased music as you go through it. This particular record is on a prairie, and it's a beautiful two-sided hoedown. This side is called Smooches, and it has a nice progression. You got lots of notes in there to play with. The number on this prairie record is 2010, and it's ideal phrasing. And you can do whatever you want with the phrasing, no matter what the figure is, no matter whether you're calling this at the basic, the mainstream, the plus, the advanced, or whatever. And the flip side of it is equally good. It's also strongly phrased. It has a multiple number of tunes to it. And it has, you can hear the progression as you get into those tunes. And you're able to hit the phrasing. And if you hear the phrase, you can call the phrase. Is it easy? No. Can it be done? Yes. Does it make a difference for the dancer? You bet. And our job is to make sure that we give the dancers every opportunity. Let me just, I want to catch a couple of these changes in here just so you hear it. Here's come a change. You hear that music? And I love that little noodling around in there. And you can watch the dancer's shoulders go with the phrase of music as you do that. This particular side is called the Mountain March. It's also an excellent record for the if you're using it as a grand march, because it's got that nice lilt to it. And incidentally, we not only should have a lilt with the music, but we should have a lilt in our voice as we're calling. And the last one that I want to use, just to show you the example of strongly phrased, is a Sting record. It's called Bubble and Squeak. And I think it's a particularly good record. I hadn't heard it at all till Deborah Parnell put me onto this one at one of the seminars we did at the National. This one is called Sting, Bubble and Squeak. And the number is 5038, or B, 503. Sting 503. Called Bubble and Squeak. Our job as we do these things is to be aware of the degree of difficulty as well. Now, some of you may or may not have seen the papers which were presented at previous CALLERLAB conventions, one by John Sobolski on degree of difficulty, and another one by Mike Jacobs on controlling the degree of difficulty. If you don't have those in your reference library, I would suggest that you get them. They also are included in the starter kit for new colors, because we felt strongly enough about those two articles. They give you things to think about in your teaching. For instance, if you're teaching the plus program and you want to teach the figure load the boat, we all know that the standard way of doing it, the center four dancers are half sashayed. That's their standard position, or the normal position from which most people call it. If you think of the dancer then, you want to give them other arrangements which will still enable them to do the load the boat. What's the next easiest arrangement to have? Whatever arrangement has the standard arrangement for the four people in the middle. For instance, boys on the right end of the line, girls on the left end of the line. That will have the center four dancer standard, and the center part is the only part which is really hard. After we've done that, then we can have same sexes in the center, and the reason for that is that 50% of them are in the normal or the standard position. The things that Jerry Reed talked about this morning in the Choreographic Applications Committee can make our job as teachers much easier if we think logically as to how to present it so that it is easy for the dancers. Jack's theme is going to be how to teach to ensure perfect success. And I submit that that starts with you as the caller, understanding what it is that you wish to call and present it in such a way that it is the logical, going from the simple to the complex, from the easier to the more difficult. Watch your degree of difficulty. Use these easiest arrangements for the dancers first. Jerry's going to show you the easy, a medium, and a harder way of getting them into certain calls. And that's what it's all about, letting the dancer win. We are all salesmen, and we're trying to sell ourselves, we're trying to sell the program. But the dancers are our customers, and they are in recreation. And we have to remember that if we make their recreation too hard, they will find some other recreation that's not as difficult for them. And it's our fault that we drive people out of square dancing. Some people will tell you that we're training survivors, and I think that's too bad. But it does happen. And I think that the other thing that we have to be aware of is the choreographic sequences or the choreographic consequences of what we call. You hear singing calls being produced today, which I think have some bad choreography in them. They start out with a sides, face, grand, square. They're interested in hearing themselves sing, so kind of in the middle of that, after the grand square is almost finished, you'll hear them say allemande and weave. Now, how long does it take them to do the allemande left and weave the ring, and where do they meet their partner? They meet their partner on the opposite side from home, don't they? How long does it take them to promenade from there back home? It takes 8 beats. How much musical phrase do you have? 16. This is what I call the 8-beat wait syndrome. And it happens all the time. It shouldn't happen, but it does, because we as callers fail to discipline ourselves into thinking choreographically of what the dancers have to do. As we go through these things, let me also call your attention to one other document that if you don't have, again, it is in the starter kit for new callers. It is called Smooth Dancing. And this includes the things of timing and tempo, which we've talked a little bit about, body positioning and hand availability. Head square through 4 to a star through. Well, it's good for the men, isn't it? But it's not so good for the ladies, because where is their hand? It is back here, and it's not readily available. But a star through to a right and left through, even though the man is using the right hand twice in a row, where is the hand? It's right where he needs it, so the hand is available. And that's the consideration type of thing that you should be dealing with. Space available for dancing. At an 8-chain through, you should not call a flutter wheel or a lady's chain, because there's no physical space. Certainly the momentum and trend of motion, as an old physics professor used to tell me, when mass is in motion, it tends to remain in motion. And there are some of us that when our mass is in motion, it continues in that motion for quite some time. The term counter dancing, if we think about the absolute body position of a dive through, square through 3 to your corner allemande left, where are the dancers at the conclusion of the square through 3? They're slightly offset right shoulder to right shoulder, aren't they? And what do we teach our dancers to do? We teach them to turn, which is the counter dancing, to be ready for the next call. A lot of times we will teach this in the phraseology which we use. Ladies lead, what do you expect the next call to be? Dixie style to wave. And supposing the caller says, ladies lead, flutter wheel. Think about it. We say ladies lead. The men start to move to the right to receive the lady. Now you say flutter wheel, and they said, you tricked me, you bird. They got to go the other direction. What do you see? What's the most common mistake dancers make today? After they swing a girl, they always twirl. Which way is the girl moving on the twirl? To her right. What does every call for the ladies begin with? What direction? To the left. We have an obligation to teach when to do that sort of thing, and the only time we should allow them to twirl is into a promenade. And if we fail to do that as teachers, then we have failed the dancer. We have shortchanged them. The last thing that I want to talk about is the conditioned reflex and expectations. Forward, up, and back you reel, pass through, and if you call anything other than wheel and deal, right? Do a double pass through, centers in. And if you did, a quarter more. because you know that they're going to cast all three quarters. Sometime when you're calling in a strange group called head square through four, swing through, and then kind of cough and hesitate for a little minute to see if the boys run or they do a spin the top, you know what kind of dance you're in for the rest of the night. Now, these are just a couple of things that I feel we have an obligation as callers to avoid to make it easy for the dancer to succeed.
I'd like to give John a nice hand. Thank you, John. Now I'm going to turn this over to Jack Murtha. Before I do, though, I would like you all to be aware of the fact that we do have handouts, and I laid them over in the windowsill over there. They're for your benefit. Please pick them up. One is on teaching techniques, which talks about what is teaching, and it's the act of communicating. We have two on teaching beginners. Check both of those out, and one on teaching squares and rounds. They are available. They are for your benefit. Please go ahead and feel free to pick them up. And then let's turn this over to Jack Murtha. Give him a nice hand, please.
Thank you very, very much. Now let me check and be sure we got enough volume on that. We were having trouble earlier. I wanted to bring with me some very, very precious, important people, and I couldn't do it. So I'm going to ask you to help me out. I'm going to ask some of you to represent the people I would have brought if I could have. And I'm going to point to you and ask you to stand so I can introduce those people that I had to leave home to everybody. Okay? I'd like to have these three ladies stand for me. These are all people who are in my new dancer classes over a number of years. We had three ladies that joined our class, all single ladies, had no partner. They all learned easily. They had the best time you ever saw. Great people in the class. Would you stand up for me just a minute? I have an 85-year-old man who wears two hearing aids. Now, you don't have to represent the people. Just stand. I know the people I'm pointing to don't have any of these complications. 85-year-old man who wears two hearing aids. His wife doesn't wear hearing aids, but she has a hearing problem. Both of them have problems learning. They are currently in the third year of dancing mainstream. I don't let people move into plus until they are error-free in mainstream dancing. And they love to dance. They come 2 and 3 nights a week. They're there for anything they need to do to help me. They're great. Would you stand up for me just a minute? Either one, that's fine. Probably the shyest man I've ever met in my life. I really, when we started teaching and working with him, I seriously doubt that he had ever touched or held hands with a lady, and he was at least 25, 30 years old. I don't think he said 10 words in the 2 years we worked with him in the class. My wife and another lady worked with him for 2 years to try to get through, in those days, some very simple, easy calls. This fellow is still dancing today. Now not only dances plus, but dances round, and travels all over the country. He's a handyman. He practically built half of our square dance building. He's really up there, and but been a very valuable member of our group. Would you two stand for me, please? They love to square dance, and they learn easily, and they can't get enough. Before I even got into the square dance class, well, they already wanted to know why we weren't teaching them to round dance. They come all the time. They'll do anything you want, and they learn. They have a great, great time. Would you stand up for me just a minute? I have a man and a lady that have exceptional problems with right and left. Now, if you don't think that's not embarrassing, just think of yourself as an adult and understand that the terms right and left do not communicate for you. 20% of our adult population have that problem. We've allowed that to grow because it's a very simple labeling problem that somebody didn't do when the children were young enough to learn it easily. So if I say left, that doesn't communicate. I have a caller that came up and told me at one of our caller clinics they could not tell right from left, except they had control of blinking their right eye. When they blinked their right eye, nobody ever knew that was happening. Then they could understand which was right and gather left. Very big problem to try and help this person get that straightened out. We worked and worked and worked on it. It's better, but it still is not solved. Okay, if all of you would sit down just a minute. I don't want to take too long on this. I want to make a point. This session's on teaching square dancing. I don't really think teaching's much of our problem. You have to understand where I come from. There's two things in the educational framework that we work with. One is teaching, and that's what I do up here. The other is learning how to dance, and I can't learn for anybody. We have classes full of people who don't have the slightest idea how to learn to square dance, and they don't have any opportunity to really apply it if they did know it. And they have a great problem when we stand up here and pretend we're teaching one class. We teach everybody the same way, the same thing. Our teachers in school do this. Teachers all over do it. They think, I know how to teach. Now I'm going to just do my thing, and then it's up to you to learn it. I'd like to make a big impassioned plea for everybody to take a new look at how they work with their classes and think every one of these people that I stood up are in classes. I know you've got them because you've already been talking to me here about them. And you have the same problems I have. Every class has. I can tell you in this room, if I wanted to teach something you'd never done before. Now, I can't take square dancing because you guys are all real well into that. But I can take any other topic you haven't done. Let's say none of you have ever bowled before. I could take this down to the bowling alley before I ever start my first lesson. I know I have a range of 1 to 5 minimum in learning rate. That means if one person in this group can take my class and in 40 rolls of the ball down the alley is now getting to the point where they feel pretty comfortable about what they're doing. I don't know who it is yet until I start teaching, but somebody in this same class, just by nature of education and by the nature of random sampling, will take a minimum of 5 times that long to get to the same level that they're at. I can take half of this group. I can take 1/4 of this group, and I still have that range. I just don't yet know who they are. I know they're there. Anything that's new, we put a class together. We have a range of time it takes to learn, particularly with people that don't know how to learn. They've never been taught how to learn square dancing. And it's hard for some people to learn to square dance. And the reaction I see from a lot of our callers who are good teachers is that, well, if you can't learn with my teaching, quit. Get out. I haven't any time to work with you. You have to remember, I have one other person in our current group that I forgot, but if we mention, I have one fellow who wants to learn to dance very much, but he's a long-distance trucker. And the partner is a square dancer, and she wants him to be her partner to learn to dance. He wants to learn, but I can only count on him being around about once every 3 or 4 classes. You know, he's traveling all the way across the United States with his truck. Why, he can't keep a schedule to come and see me very often. So the point is, plain and simple, there's a big distinction to me between teaching a class and helping people learn. And we have a lot of people who can teach. They can stand in front and apply a lot of nice principles to teach. But even they don't know how to help guys like the person that doesn't know his left from his right and is struggling and embarrassed every time he makes a mistake and goes the wrong way. Or the shy guy that just has never had anything like this before in his life and is willing to try to do whatever you ask, but he can't. He has an awful time. He's not at a stage where he can do that yet. So I have a big problem with this idea of how we teach classes in ways that the guy in charge sets his mind to the idea that my job is to help everybody in my class learn. And somehow or another has to go looking for a whole bunch of new information and new ideas to take that group and help them learn. Now, the beautiful thing about square dancing or any other activity is that the thing that makes the difference in how fast people can learn is more their experience, the prior experiences they bring, than it is anything genetic. If you already know how to do something, it's easy to do. Doesn't matter what it is. If you're an excellent A2 dancer, A2 dancing is easy. If you don't know anything about A2 dancing, then it's hard. And our experiences can modify that 1 to 5 range. It can, after a good, solid learning in the basic program or mainstream program, if the folks really have all learned that well, you've done a good job helping them learn, they're all together, now with a common experience they can learn the plus program with a range of about 1/2 to 1 difference. They come into this program all with the same experiences that they need to learn the next things. They can learn them together. The whole class can progress. I want to take just a minute to give you an idea of what goes on when somebody learns. And then I want to try and make sure I have enough time to talk about the thing that I wanted to show you, helping people overcome the problems in learning a new call. Some of the problems. We don't teach the feet. We don't teach the hands. We don't teach the legs. What we're teaching when we teach square dancing is the brain. And each person is hearing what you say, is practicing and doing what you want them to do, and all of that is doing something in the brain which has to run all of you. One of the people that writes on this subject calls that creating a cell assembly. And I like that term for an educator's standpoint. Now, I'm not a brain researcher, so brain people would call it chunking or some other kind of a term, but I like the term cell assembly. And what it means is when I'm going to teach a call that I'm going to show you in a minute to work with, what I'm going to do is try and create in every one of my learners a cell assembly that runs their body error-free through that call whenever they hear it. You have already a lot of experiences. You've got thousands and thousands and thousands of cell assemblies that do different things. Some of them are helpful. You can draw on them, and it helps you learn this new thing. And if you can do that, that's what we call giving meaning to something you're learning. And it means I already know a lot of stuff that I can apply and helps me to learn. By the same token, if the teacher or the learner makes some errors in getting this sorted out into a cell assembly, they can mix two cell assemblies. They can get them mixed up. And the person who's learning can't call one from the other. He constantly is pulling things from both sets of information and making errors. And that's what I want to mostly try to address, is how to try and help you create a very specific cell assembly for the call you're teaching and keep it from being interfered with by another set of cell assemblies that have other information in them. If I can get a square to come up here in front for me, 4 men, 4 ladies, I'd appreciate that very much. Now, I'm going to try to stick up here kind of close so that I can do this on the microphone. Ordinarily, with a demonstration group, I'd work a lot closer. I almost always will have a demonstration group go through calls that I'm going to teach, particularly where I have problems that I'm expecting. Now, this group most often would be angels from my club that I know what I want them to do. But sometimes I can use good dancers out of the class that are skilled and working fine, and I can talk them through it. But I want people to see that. One of the things that is important as you start into this is to realize I've been teaching parts of this call since day one of my class. We've done several things that are important to the success of learning this long ago. We've been trying to lock into a nice shuffle step. We've been trying to follow Jon's wise counsel on developing timing for calls, so I can trust them to stay in rhythm with me. We've been working on how you do a hand hold for a forearm turn, or how to grasp hands, and I don't let people put their thumb around an arm. It takes a long time before I finally get over to them. That hand is flat. Nobody hangs on to anybody else. You can drop hands very easily anytime you want to without someone holding on to you. Particularly for our girls, we have a lot of ladies that are extremely good followers. They've danced a lot all their life. And the slightest little cue from that man partner can send them off in the wrong direction, and it's not their fault. It's that they received a signal because somebody held onto their hand too long and pushed them a little bit further, and they followed it up. The calls that we're going to work with are Alamanthar Star, Shoot the Star, and Slip the Clutch. In my classes, I have problems with this, and still have problems with everything I can think of to do, with some of my people getting those two calls confused over a period of time. But there are principles to follow in trying to correct that. Now, because of our tight time schedule, and because these people already are obviously not beginners, I'm going to take advantage of some of the things I know and just use it to point out to you the things I'm trying to make a statement with. Okay? First of all, if I have two things that I know are going to be conflicts, they're going to have information confusing to the dancer, then I teach only one at a time. And I want that pretty well learned before I start even talking about the other one. So our first move is to teach them the shoot the star part of an Alamanthar. Getting into an Alamanthar, then shoot the star. I want lots of practice. I want them to listen to it. I want them to do it well. And I want them to get that whole concept going well. So I'm just going to have them get into this. I'm going to assume they already know how to join hands in a forearm turn or an Alaman left. They know how to keep a nice shuffle step going. All right? Go Alaman left with the corner. Go forward 2 with a right and a left, and pause with the next. Take a forearm turn. Now, turn halfway around without letting go. Men, take the wrist of the man in front of you. Now, for some of our demonstrations, I can go through it this fast. Some of them much slower, and we have to do it again. On this one, I'm going to set up a series of patterns, and I'm going to try and keep them as different as I can from what I'm going to do with the other one. Okay, shoot that star. Go forward 2 with a right, with a left. Make another star, men back into the middle and back up. Shoot that star, go forward 2 with a right, with a left. Make another thar, and the men back up. Shoot that star, go forward 2 with a right, with a left. Make another star, the men back up. Shoot that star, take the next promenade home. Now, I may do this with my class when I introduce this several times, with or without music. I really want to lock in a couple of principles. I want them to understand that when they shoot the star, they're going to have a arm hold with the lady, and they're not going to let go of that lady. And then they're going to listen for the next call. They're going to hang on and listen for the next call. And we'll do this in several ways. We'll vary it to some degree. For instance, do an Alaman left, do an Alaman thar. Go forward 2, make a star. Now, shoot that star, forward 3, right, left, swing your partner, keep her, and promenade all the way home. And there's all kinds of little things I can do to vary this. I can go to a do-sa-do and come back in between. I can do a number of things so I don't have a routine that I do over and over again, but the principles are all there. Now, 2 weeks after I started this, and I've deliberately made sure each night I did this several times in several different tips. When people are learning something, there's 3 basic things that happen talking about the brain. 1, you have to perceive or hear or receive what it is being taught. 2nd, you have to store it so that it has to get through what's called short-term memory into your long-term memory, or short-term memory is gone. It's not there at all. That bounces right straight through. So you have to store it. And then the last thing is you have to retrieve it. Now, retrieving it is the hardest part of learning something new like this, because it depends on certain cues. And if you keep changing the cues and the learner has not learned that way, then some cues may throw them for a loop. As an example, I can't remember who it was one of you guys. Okay. I won't go into that. Now slip the clutch. 2 weeks later, we're ready to introduce this. Now, I'm going to introduce this separately again, and we're going to work and practice it. I'm going to do everything I can think of to make it different than what I just did. Walk around the corner, turn partner left to an Allemande, men back into the center, back up. Stop. Now, you have on your right-hand side, men, you have a star. Kind of lift your hands and show me you know where the star is. On the other hand, you're clutching the girl. Lift the clutch. Okay. In the call that we're working on now, you're going to let go of the clutch and reverse your star. Ladies, slip the clutch. Now walk forward, men, and the ladies keep going and go all the way around till you meet your same partner again. Turn her by the left to an Allemande. Back up again. Back up again. Slip the clutch, go all the way around, find the same lady again, turn her by the left to an Allemande and back up. Slip the clutch, go all the way around, find your partner, find the same lady, and turn her by the left to an Allemande. Okay, promenade your partner. Slip the clutch, slip the clutch. And Allemande left, come back and promenade. That's what happens when I'm thinking of 5 things at the same time. Next time I'll put the ladies in the center, men promenade, do paso to an Allemande. I'm not going to use Allemande left to an Allemande that I used to teach the other thing. I'm going to find all kinds of different things to surround this call with. And I'll slip the clutch all the way around many, many times. Then I'll slip the clutch past one, slip the clutch, find a corner, and we'll keep working. I want to build a good, strong cell assembly for the Allemande figure, shoot the star, and another very strong assembly for slip the clutch. Then I start bringing them together. Maybe after I've done slip the clutch, I keep doing Allemande, shoot the star, and then I'll add slip the clutch for a couple weeks, and then we start bringing them together. Now, Allemande left, Allemande forward 2, and make a star, and the men to the middle with a backup star, back up. Slip the clutch, pass 1, Allemande left, come back, promenade home. I wouldn't ever do those 2 in the same thing till I felt I had done a pretty good job of helping everybody learn both separately and able to have a good response with each separately. Then I have to bring them together, and I have to keep doing things that help them discriminate. They've got to fine-tune the cell assembly for each to get rid of anything that's confusing them about those 2 and get them very clear, and then we're ready to go. Thank you very much. You were a lot of help. I think that's about all the time that I have. Thank you.
Give Jack a nice hand. Thank you, Jack. All right, I'm going to try and summarize a little bit what these guys have said, and then I'm going to address a different subject about easy, medium, and hard. John kind of stole my thunder on talking about music. I don't think we think about music enough when we initially teach square dancers how to dance. Music tells them to move their feet. Another thing that they both talked about is communication. How do we communicate to these dancers what we want them to do? People skills, teaching a class. I never thought about helping people to learn, but that's exactly what we do. We can teach, but they don't always learn. And I think, Jack, that was excellent. I hadn't thought of it that way. The other thing that teaching a class takes is repetition. Exposing someone to a call is not teaching the call. It takes repetition. It takes a lot of times, a lot of repeats for people to learn, depending on the age, depending on a lot of variables. just all kinds of things. So all these come into your teaching. The other thing when you first start a class is something that I call the fear factor. There are people who come to class, they're excited about square dancing. They want to come to learn. There's also the guy that drug a rut with 2 feet as he came in that door over there. Now this guy ain't happy about being there. He's not. So you've got to recognize this guy. One thing that I do when I have a new class come in, first of all, I'm a little upset with people sometimes, or disappointed with callers when they say, well, it's lesson time again. Oh, here we go again. I'm just the other way. I look forward to class because you're going to meet somebody you might like to know. You really are. Look forward to class. It's a chance to meet new people, to expose new people to our activity. Have some enthusiasm for it. Now, when I have a new class members come in, the first thing I do is I greet every one of them at the door when they come in. Sharon takes the money in Mesa, Arizona as they come through the door, and I make it a point that I meet each and every one of them. In doing that, you're going to meet people and you shake their hand, and this guy's got a sweaty palm. You know this guy's scared. You also, when you do that with a lady, you know which lady is scared. They are afraid of you. You are a teacher, and as John or Jack, whichever one talked about, they have been out of the learning mode. They've been away from school for a long time. Learning is difficult if you haven't been used to learning. Kids learn because they're sitting in school. People tell them learn this. They do. They're in a learning mode. As we grow older, we get out of that. So I watch that. And when someone comes in the door that is especially nervous, and you can tell it instantly, I at least walk up and I try to shake their hand. And ma'am, if I can borrow you, try to shake their hand. And I really believe in what Jack said in doing demonstration purposes. Now, if this lady's shaking or she says, boy, I'm really scared, first thing I'll do, and I'm good at this, I like this a lot, I'll say, don't worry about a thing, hon, we'll take care of you. Now, what that does, that gets me off the stage. It puts me on her level. It makes me eye level with her. I'm not standing up looking down at her. I got my arm around her. I said, don't you worry about a thing. I'll take care of it. You just have a good time. When I start to teach, thanks, hon. When I start to teach, first thing I teach is Alaman left and do-sa-do. I'll say, you know, we had a lady came in early to practice on this, and so that we can all do it. And I personally get out on the floor. I don't take her husband, but I will take that same lady. Now, you don't have to come back, hon. I take that same lady for a reason. I use her for a reason. First of all, she's more nervous. She's going to have more difficulty probably learning than anybody there because of nerves. Not because she's dumb, because of nerves. That lady then, I will take her out and we'll work the do-sa-do. And again, I'm on eye level with her. I'm not above her. I'm down there where she can see me, and I touch her so that she knows I'm just like she is. And we work a do-sa-do. She gets over some of that fear. So do the other people. They see me get on the floor, that I am one of them. It's a team. It's not me telling you how to do that. As we go through the lessons, every call that I demonstrate, if I can demonstrate it, I get off the floor and I'll say, you know, we had another lady come in early to help practice thing, and they're all going before 3 weeks are out. They're going, oh, geez, it's going to be me. Well, that's part of it. That's part of the fun of playing with them, of having a good time. And when I teach a flutter wheel, I'll go out there, take a couple and another lady, and I'll say, boys, you're going to see this. This is how we do a flutter wheel. I demonstrate it. I said, this is what you're going to see. And I'll have them flutter wheel again, and I stand like I'm froze to the ground. And then hurry up to get across. And everybody laughs. But the first time we do a flutter wheel, that's what the boys do. They're froze right to the ground. But they remember that. And those are little techniques. Now, if I can have that square quick, I've talked about the fear factor. If I can have that square back quickly, I want to talk to you just briefly about easy, medium, and hard. Let's see, guys, if you would. Pardon? Oh. Easy, medium, hard. I'm just going to take a right and left through real quickly. Head couples, if you would, lead to the right. Circle to a line. Okay? You can... All right. A teaching technique. There are easy, medium, and hard ways to teach a call. If you teach a call the hard way first, you're going to have trouble with it. Now, we've got lines. If I'm going to teach a right and left through, and I don't want to take a lot of time per se, I can teach all the people at the same time doing a right and left through. They already know a lady's change, so they know a courtesy turn. And I work heads, promenade, half, down the middle, pass through, courtesy turn before I get ready to do a right and left through. Now, here I've got them in lines. I can teach everybody in the hall to do a right and left through without anybody having to stand and watch. And I'll just do that. I'll demonstrate it first with just two couples, but then I'll get them into lines. I'll say, now everybody, reach out with the right hand, shake hands, pull by, girls look at the boy, reach over, boys courtesy turn that lady. I've taught everybody in the hall in one pop. And you reduce your teaching time that way. Now, that's what I would call an easy way to teach it. Or I would have head couples do a right and left through, or side couples do a right and left through. That's what I would call an easy way to teach it. Now, let's do this. Star through, pass through, Alaman left, come back home. Okay. Now, here's what I would call a medium way of difficulty. Heads, just step forward, turn out and face your corner. I call this a medium difficulty. Not for the couples that are on the inside, the people looking out, because there's only one girl they can turn. But for the people looking in, when they come to the center, there's going to be a girl coming at them. And the common thing is for those boys coming in to turn the girl they're facing. The girl beside them has completely left their minds. So you have to caution people. When you do a right and left through, courtesy turn the girl beside you. Now let's do a right and left through. Right hand pull by, turn the girl beside you. And be aware that that's going to happen. They're going to want to reach across and turn that girl across in front of them. That's what I would call a medium way. Do a right and left through again. Courtesy turn the girl. Okay, step to a wave. Swing through. Spin the top. Bingo. Here's the hard wave. From an ocean wave. And how many times do you have to work that, work that, work that? I work right and left throughs a lot, and I keep telling the lady, look at that boy. Eye contact. Look at that boy. John talked about kinesiology, or if he didn't, he should have. Kinesiology of a right and left through, like for Lori here, when she pulls by with that right hand, it automatically makes her want to turn to the right. So you have to think about this counter dancing that John talked about. Girls, you're going to look at that boy. He is on your left side. The way I teach it out of an ocean wave, boys, do not let loose of this girl. Boys, slide over in front of this girl. Slide in front of the girl. Do not let loose. All an ocean wave is two couples facing, but they're stretched out. As soon as they realize that, do a right and left through. That's all an ocean wave is. Nothing more than that. Pass the ocean. Make a wave. Swing through. Spin the top. Okay, now we're right back to the same setup, and I will do this a couple of times. Boys, again, don't let loose of the girl, but slide in front of the girl. Notice that an ocean wave is two couples facing, stretched out. Do a right and left through. They'll do it first pop every time. Every time. But it takes some repetition. When you do that, it takes repetition. Now, the other call that I would demonstrate, how many guys have trouble doing Dixie style to a wave? I think almost all of us do. There's a reason dancers have trouble with Dixie style to a wave. First of all, we don't call it very much. And there's a reason for that. A lot of guys can't set it up. A lot of guys don't have a way to get out of it. How do I get out of it after I'm in it? I don't want to do a left swing through and a girl's run and a bend the line, because I got to teach all that stuff. Let's do this. Star through, if you would, please. Okay? Slide through. Now, I got a corner line here, right? Okay, everybody's got their corner for a partner. Do a right and left through. Now, when I teach Dixie style to an ocean wave, I said, okay, this is the way we're going to start it. We've done our right and left through. Now we're talking about some counter dancing that John talked about. Boys, you're going to have to slide behind the lady. When you hear the call, ladies lead Dixie style. Boys, slide behind the lady. Do that. Slide behind her. Ladies, you're going to take a right hand and listen to me, girls, don't do it yet. You're going to pull by, and your free hand then is a left. You're going to turn the boy by the left hand. Boys, you will join right hands in the center in a wave. Girls, right hand pull by, turn the boy left, boys touch, bang. End of call. Be sure you say that. End of call. Right there. End of call. So they see this is where Dixie style starts or stops. Now, how do I get out of it? Okay, I usually work some folds and cross folds and stuff for a while. Boys, cross fold. Alaman left. You're there. It's that quick. That's what you need to do. I firmly believe that if you're teaching, you need to think about what you're going to teach. You need to have a plan. You need to have a setup that when I get out of this one call, gets me out of that call. Gets me out of that formation. Heads again, pair off or step forward, turn out, face your corner, star through. Right and left through. And again, guys, when you teach this, boys, you're going to have to slide behind the girl. You want to set it up so that the boys can slide behind the girl. Boys, slide behind the girls. Ladies lead Dixie style. Turn the fellow by the left. Boys touch. End of call. End of call. Boys, cross fold. Alaman left. That's an instant get out for you, and it'll make that call much easier to use. Now, you can expand that just a little bit. Heads again, pair off, face the outside two, star through. Right and left through. Okay, now I've moved them along to where ladies lead Dixie style to an ocean wave. Boys trade. Alaman left. Set it up so that you can get out of it, so that they can't miss. So they can't miss. If they do it right the first time, they'll dance it every time. If they have nothing but problems, that call will always be a problem. And it behooves the caller then, the caller, to ensure that your setups are such that when you first initially introduce a call, that they can't miss. Because later on, if you want to expand that call, you can do it. Let's do this. Heads pair off again. Star through. Right and left through. Ladies lead Dixie style. Okay. Now, we're right here. I almost always trade the boys unless I'm going to do something else. But boys trade. Okay, now you want to expand your Dixie style waves. How do we work it? How to maybe get out of it? Boys cross run. Ladies slide together. Girls trade. There's just something else that you can use. Swing through. Boy run. Bend the line. You can play with Dixie style. It's a lot of fun. Right and left through. Ladies lead Dixie style. Boys trade. Now, you want to work a left swing through. Left swing through. Girls run. Couples circulate. Very fine. Now, notice though that you haven't taken them out of that comfort zone that you've created for them. You would have to teach that left swing through. But it's nothing they can't do. Left swing through, girls run. Now, you can add to that. And once they get that down, and I work this, I maybe theme, 2 or 3 tips of a dance through something like this. Then toward the end of my mainstream dance, I'll have them circulate like that. Girls, run to the left. Squeeze in between the boys. Girls trade. Girls run left. Boys trade with the left. Boys run to the right. Girls trade with the left. Swing through. Boy run. Bend the line. Right and left through. Slide through. Alaman left. Now that's a sequence that you could play, but you couldn't call that first pop necessarily. You'd want to work your way up through that. And I don't know that you would do that necessarily in a class.
Yeah, let me just say one other thing. If you do that ladies lead Dixie style and you want to call the left swing through, make sure you have the centers trade first.
Absolutely.
That's where the boy's body wants to go. The trend of motion says you want to trade in the middle. Let them trade. But if you want to get them back over to the other side, have the men trade twice before they do the left swing through. But don't call ladies lead Dixie style to a left swing through. That is overflow, it is disaster, and it's uncomfortable.
For instance, heads pair off again. Star through. Yeah, that's fine. Right and left through. Ladies lead Dixie style. This is what John's talking about. I see this so much. It just breaks my heart. I should have done it quicker. I'm sorry. Okay, well, boys cross fold, star through, right and left through. Ladies lead Dixie style to an ocean wave, left swing through. That is as bad as it gets. That's pitiful. And there's no way around it. That's pitiful. I want to thank you guys. Give these guys a nice hand, please. I'll wrap this up. I want to wrap this up very, very quickly. I appreciate all of you coming here, and I'm sure on behalf of John and Jack. Teaching to me is our weakest point as square dance callers, and I don't think there is any one of us that couldn't use or learn something from somebody in the teaching department. It's the most important thing we do. I think it's something that maybe we work the least hard on. When you have a class, kind of like I did with the Dixie Styles, have a plan. Know what you're going to teach. Know what you have taught before, that you can build on what you have taught. I really believe that. In Arizona, Daryl Clinton and I both run beginners classes. Well, we run classes for everything. We tend to move our people back and forth. If mine dance on Tuesday, his dance is on Thursday. He'll say, "What did you teach?" And I'll tell him, "Well, what do we want to do next week?" "Well, if we're going to do wheel and deal next week, we need to work on this." We discuss this every morning. We call. What are we going to do for A1? What are we going to do for plus? Did you do this last week? If we want to teach Crossfire down the road, do we need to work this first? Have a plan. It's absolutely essential. It'll make your teaching so much better, and I think you will enjoy your classes. Now, we've got about 8 minutes for questions. If you have a question, please go to the microphone at the center because it is being taped. Okay, Chuck?
Right. Any hints on teaching techniques for Alamo style or just a basic swing through out of an ocean wave?
Okay. I don't know if either one of you guys want to handle this. When I teach swing through, I teach Alamo style first. That's the way I teach a swing through, and then by the time they're ready to do a swing through, they already know it. You just have to show them an ocean wave. You're not teaching ocean waves, swing throughs, all that stuff. I teach boys run first and girls run. I teach the Alamo style swing through, and when I'm ready to teach swing through, I just teach the ocean wave formation.
Caution on that before the next question. If you're using the Alamo ring for the swing through, and you want to have them swing through twice, please do not then call turn through to the corner.
Absolutely.
If you think about it, the swing through ends in another Alamo ring with the men facing in, the girls facing out. If you then call turn through, the girls are facing the center of the set and the men are facing out. You cannot do an Alaman from there. It meters the same, it calls the same, it dances better if you say, turn your partner by the right to your corner Alaman. Learn to discipline yourself to give the dancers a fair chance.
Chuck, did I answer your question? I'm not sure that I did.
Basically, you said you taught the Alamo style first, and therefore you eliminate the problems for the ocean wave.
Absolutely. I teach the Alamo style first.
Wayne Jansen at California. One thing about the Dixie style that it brought to my mind, and there are a number of singing calls that that have it, is box 4 or square through 4, star through, girls lead Dixie style. That is a bad one.
Very much so. Jerry, help.
Jerry, help. Get this mic down where I can use it. Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm curious about, in the process of teaching, do you discuss the name of the call and explain what it is? Do-sa-do, sachet, Alamand.
Well, if you're saying, do we do it first to talk about the name of the call and describe it and discuss it, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Always by the time I start dancing it or utilizing it, we've gone over that information. But I don't always present that first. Sometimes I'll take a call like the Alamandar and start working with it. And when I feel like we've got a pretty good idea of what we're doing, then I'll put the name to it. So I don't have a special rule one way or another. You have some people learn better with what we call the left brain, which handles everything in very short segments and details and sequences. The right brain sees everything in wholes. I have a daughter who learns much better if she sees the whole thing done first and then starts learning the detail of it. Other people learn much better the other way. If they can handle the detail, then they can all put it together and see it. So I don't have a particular rule one way or another. I do it both ways. I do want to comment on that other thing a minute because I have a little different approach and feeling about square dancing than John mentions. I think sometimes we get into problems in today's square dancing if we make anything really black and white. That never do this or always do that. One of the things I feel that I always teach in my classes from the very beginning is that square dancers in today's world have to learn to make adjustments as they dance. Many calls require this. When I do a swing through to a spin the top, I teach them you never finish the move till you've heard the next call. And I have them move up and stand in front of the other couple until they hear it. We've had times when we've called swing through to a star through, swing through to a turn through. Those are fine if you've made the adjustment to put yourself in the right position to do them. But if you've already moved yourself up into an ocean waves and they're side by side and you didn't hear it, now if I want to call square through 3 or if I want to call right and left through, they're in a very bad position to do that and they're standing there waiting for the call. I feel like one of the things every dancer in today's world has to learn is that they have to get the next call before they lock themselves into a position for the call that's finishing. And there are several calls that do not have a specific end. Do paso is a good example. Do paso officially ends with a courtesy turn unless the caller interrupts that and says men to the center back to back or alamandar star. And if a dancer has locked themselves into courtesy turns, they're in a very difficult position to do those other calls. So they have to hear the next call before they complete the call they're doing. And I like them to slow down. If the caller's late, then don't lock in. Don't go ahead and finish it in your own way, but be able to make an adjustment to whatever the caller tells you comes next.
Yeah, I agree with what Jack's saying, but at the same point in time, if our objective is to give them good timed music, good timed dancing choreography, we have an obligation to give the command when it should be given. And just as Jerry used for the demonstration, the ladies lead Dixie style of an ocean wave, and then he talked a little bit before he called the left swing through, that would not be a problem. But the timing would not be right. And while Jack's point is absolutely valid, you have to be able to adjust. You can do that by giving the proper timing. And much as I deplore star through veer left, I think it is terribly awkward for the ladies. If the call is properly timed, the ladies will treat it as a lunge and recover. And that is exactly what they do. Because they're moving to their right and then they're coming right back to the left. Now, I've had a major fight, a minor domestic with my wife over whether star through veer left is smooth or not smooth. And I say, if star through veer left is acceptable for the ladies, then star through veer right must be equally acceptable for the men. And I guarantee you there's not a man in this room who would accept star through veer right. Because we are dictatorial and we wouldn't put up with it. But the ladies, bless their hearts, allow us to get away with it.
I have a caller in our area who calls veer left, star right every dance, several times during the evening.
Veer right, star left?
What did I say? Star through veer right. Sorry. And I'm in the same ball game you are. I never call star through veer left, but that doesn't mean my dancers aren't going to run into it. And I think this is the thing I want to emphasize between John and me. If John's coming, I can depend on that timing he's talking about and doing this. But remember, I'm not teaching him to dance to John or teaching him to dance to me. I'm teaching him to dance to all of you and all the other callers in the world. And I have to prepare them to dance to all of you well. It's not enough for me to say, never use star through veer left. CALLERLAB has a whole series of tapes, and you'd be amazed at the progression that our callers in this room that have made who said, I don't think star through veer left's good. 2 years later, on the next tape on teaching, they say, I've changed my mind. Star through veer left is okay, and I use it all the time now. So I'm not teaching them to dance to me, and I'm not teaching them to dance to John. I'm teaching them to dance, and I'm telling them these are things you have to learn if you're going to dance to any caller you run into.
Next question, sir, and we're just about out of time. We'll get you both.
Homer German, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I have 2 men in my class who are 80-plus years old. They're learning very slowly. Do I graduate them the end of this month with the rest of my class and let them? They are progressing, and but I think it's going to be kind of slow. But do I graduate them and let them go ahead?
Let me comment on that, because I have the same kind of situation, and I have in most of my classes people that are not ready to graduate at the time that the class is there. That gets back to what I tried to say a little while ago. You are not teaching one class. All of us treat it like that. We say, I'm the teacher, I'm going to take 10 months, and at the end of that time, that's all you get from me. You're on your own to learn during that time and afterwards, and that's not what you should be thinking. If you got 2 85-year-olds, they may not be able to dance mainstream. And our big problem in this world right now is that clubs then tell them to quit coming. American Square Dance Magazine had an interesting article by one person who wrote she'd taken 3 people to her club in classes, and all of them had been asked to leave, one after another. So my answer is, in what I do with my class, is that I don't allow them to go on to the next program until they can dance virtually error-free in the one we're in. I've been doing this with mainstream and plus for a long time, but starting next year we'll also do it with basic and mainstream. And I have people in my group that have been with me for 3 years now, and I still won't allow into the plus classes. I talk to them, and they know they can't do this. But I give them tests. I used to give tests all the time, and the testing program that I use is that Sets in Order produced a lot of excellent premium records. And I'll take a premium record, like for the basic program, to my club, put it on, and if the club can dance it without error the first time, then that becomes a standard. If they can't, then we don't expect beginners to, but I can expect my class to dance as well as my club if I'm going to allow them to go on.
That's right. Last question.
Bert Shane, New York. We had similar problems in the classes that I've had, and one of the things that we found useful was we started a program last year with the Angels that we now call the Guardian Angel Program. And we assign each angel 4 or 5 dancers, and they kind of work with them. And we've had some people that normally would never get through the program, but now that they have their own angel to work with on a kind of a midweek basis, it's worked out pretty good.
All right, we have to, thank you, sir, we have to wind this up. And he just touched on something that's kind of a nerve with me. I think all of us need to think a little more about being kinder to our dancers once we get out of class. We baby them through class, we work hard to keep them, and then after class, we take them out or send them out into the world and say, survive or else. And instead, I think that that's the time we need to be more careful. Remember, they came to class, they had this fear factor that I talked about. Once they're into class and are accustomed to it, this is a comfort zone for them. They come to class and they're happy here. They're learning here. They know their friends. Then you send them into the club and they walk through that door again, and the first thing that hits them is, whoa, I don't know anybody. And we're just class people. Wouldn't it be better that if for the first month or 2 after class you call them up and say, hey guys, why don't you ride with us to the dance? Take them. If we would do that, I guarantee you you'd lose much, much less people.
One other comment. How many of you, when you're teaching class, encourage the strong dancers to line up opposite one another in the square? If you don't, let me suggest that you do that. You can call them bluebirds, you can call them robins, and you can call them cardinals in an elementary center, and it doesn't take long before they find out who the dumb group is. And I say that not to insult anybody, but they also know who the strong dancers are. And if we have the strong dancers opposite one another, then 50% of each foursome will be strong dancers. You're missing a teaching opportunity if you don't encourage them to square up with the strong dancers opposite one another.
Or another way to do that, and we use these in Arizona, the computer cards are wonderful. All of a sudden, your weaker dancers are forced to dance with the better dancers and vice versa. And pretty soon, your weaker dancers are no longer weaker dancers. I really believe in them. Guys, I want to especially thank our demonstration square. Would you give them a nice hand, please? And I want to thank each of you to come to our session. We appreciate it very much. It's an honor for me to be here with Jack and John. Give them a nice hand, and thank you all for coming.
And a big hand for Jerry Junck.
I'll do any questions that you want. I'll be here for a while.
No, I'm going to wait over here by the door.
Where you been? That gets to be about 12 minutes. It's been very long enough to know sometimes what has to go on.
You don't take too much liberty with time. You always look to beat. Well, if
No service having a picture before you did. My watches are always about
no, I never do that. No, that's in trouble too.
I said they did 5 minutes.
Because you always know you got it.
I forget about it.
It is when the watch slows down, you can be late. Well, you know, there's another. The only opportunity I got
But I had my club in
what we've done is and those two old men I'm talking about, that's the only way I could get them to do it. Really was hard.
Interesting. I'll
But
be there.
hell will probably
Which is?
I think you know the guy, Jeff Bopes.
I don't think I know.
He goes to the Dixie style way. Make a little piece. Only circular.
Oh, jeez.
Did you believe that?
Yeah.
The whole floor broke down.
Well, they should.
And I gave him the dirtiest look. You know, give me a look for.
Yeah. They don't.
Misleading.
Tell me what somebody comes to me and says, Jerry, what is aluminum? Jerry, what is those?
We mean what is say reference to the name of the call?
Yeah, in reference to the call. What is aluminum?
I didn't say.
I started trying to.
What the hell is aluminum? What does it mean? What does goes to go mean? What's that show mean? What's the meaning of that word? Because
Not just what is the name of the call.
how does that word relate?
I will be one thing. If I know how to read your picture, I'll tell you, but I also don't have a provision. When you hear me say get a line, it's zero. If I say get a big provision, I feel also that.
What is aluminum? Where does it come from? Register?
To the left.
It's actually a turn to be left or right. Goes to go. Where does goes to go? Goes to go is mentioned. It's actually yeah. Well, not necessarily. Where does go pass over?
Happy show and trying to provide a distinction between the old-fashioned Dosito and that one I know.
How about aluminum bar?
It's actually.
Why is it called
Actually,
one was easier than it's true. We take so many things for granted because we have to know what you
choreography is bad. But as they know how to think it's not really an section because it's exactly like it's other. It's a luncheon recovery or it's a rock recovery. That's right. Any of you dancing as dancing should be, then it's fall down to body control. In body control, just like in round dance, you do luncheon recovers all time. You do rock recovery. You start around dancing. We're just dancing.
That's great. He said the whole floor wrote that as well as you.
You know, come on, what I do wrong? No, get out of it. Well, all of us have our faults and our shortcomings and everything, but my long-time pain, and we do not know people. And that boils down to, and that's where a lot of this comes from. In fact, what aggravated everybody is when the daughter or somebody got out here in front of everybody and put over dinner back in the big day and had a big convention and insisted that everything had to go forward. Never call it all, but that's it. Every example. Dancing is backwards and sideways and forwards in every direction.
That's a lot of big words.
You cannot constantly fall something.
A couple stand with a guy and a gal. What are we talking about?
That tells them The question is, do you do that mainstream? And the answer is advisedly no. You can. And the other thing you can do if you're using same-sex couples, you can do more than once and two. And you call them out and one and two.
That's your smooth.
But that's about the technique. And there's thousands of different techniques.
My wife always says, you can't say this all the girls position. She said, well, if I want to describe something, how am I going to describe it? Fellows and balls, do the right up and
left to right. Left to right side, yes. Or what you say, the points, in this case the girls, or the points, or the centers, in this case the boys, so that they know, and you're starting to get the vocabulary of centers, in facers, out facers, and but that, it's techniques.
And another thing that worried me about Jerry's thing, and I'm going to talk to him children mainly on my course, is I tried to teach emotion ways in Alamo back in the early days, and I found out that was not good for me. The reason being is because the most difficult thing to teach swing through or spin chain through is the position that has to have the discipline to stand there and not move. The one that has to hold the position. And you never get that when you do it out of a way.
I remind you of Max Forsythe. He said, what's the hardest thing about spin chain through? He said, you swing half by the right, center turn left, but go before you do say, stay.
That's right. That's right. And I never heard him say that, but I use that word all the time. And you stay.
Yeah, you're stay.
You know, you have the discipline to stand there.
Wait.
That's the hardest, and even harder than that is the person who does the 3 turn. Rather than the 4. After he does a half right and 3/4 left, and then has to stand there. Hell, 9 times out of 10.
They start moving and they're out of position.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the most.
I didn't get here at the beginning. Was anything discussed about standing circles?
No, we didn't talk. No, we didn't talk about that. That obviously that's a preferred way of teaching things, but particularly if it lends itself to a couple of
every teach session.
Yeah. Then you come back worry about what you do. So you're not locked in.
Yeah,
Uncle Darrell sent me after you.
He said it's one. All right.
That's fine. That's fine. I'll have you carry my bags to the airport.
Hi, how are you?
Pleasure.
Pleasure's all mine.